session otherwise is a very important session, and today the government is also deliberating, and we are also contributing in a large way the entire spiel towards the $50 billion industry that we would be contributing globally. And undoubtedly, India will be the next MedTech hub when we look at the kind of expansion we're having in the medical devices sector, in the entire healthcare itself. And as Gaurav ji otherwise in his address just a couple of minutes back said, lot of factors are contributing to this entire growth, not only the economy but also the entire zeal towards having a quality and an affordable accessible healthcare is going to be a paradigm shift that India will take forward to. Now this session is an important milestone in terms of we discussing from an industry perspective how to take forward this vision, because we've had enough discussions within the government also, and on a regular basis we are discussing with the government, with the Department of Pharmaceuticals, with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, with the regulators also, on the aspect of ease of doing business, on the aspect of taking forward an economically viable industry which will represent a larger population beyond India. So I think the $50 billion industry is something which we all from an industry perspective are confident it's a doable goal. It's something that we have already embarked upon. Before we start with the other speakers, we have a message from Dr. Sudhir Srivastav ji. He could not unfortunately travel because of I think illness issues. But yes, if the organizers could have his message after this, then we'll start off with our one-to-one interaction with the other panel members. Okay, so what I'll do is, no worries. What I'll do is I'll start with each of the panel member here. So Gaurav ji, first question goes to you. Undoubtedly, you've seen this progress going for the past couple of years, and you've been a part of this entire progress also, and a part of deliberations also. The government of India has this ambitious target of achieving the $50 billion medtech economy. So how do you see the role, and especially, I mean, IITPL and other companies who have now embarked on this big path, how do you see the role of us unfurling, and especially the funding agencies, the industry investments that are supporting these initiatives to come up with this $50 billion medtech economy, and some views on how you would want this to unfurl in the next couple of years?
So thank you very much. I think it's a very layered question, and I think you are in a great position. You've seen this up close and personal. Sejanand has been a flag bearer of what Made in India for the world can achieve, really, being present in over 80 countries. Today Sejanand is playing a dominant role, and so are several other Indian players. So the framework that I've always used is a very simple ABC framework. The first is acknowledge. Acknowledge the areas where we have very high import dependence or a very large unaddressed clinical need. And both of them have been taught by the pandemic. We've learned that about 60% of our annual import is in medical electronics. So one of the reasons also, I think all of this ties in together extremely well. One of the reasons why we are the size that we are, about $10-11 billion, is that we have amazing success in implantables, in diagnostics, in surgicals. But in high-end CapEx or capital medical equipment, we've not had as much success. So that is the part where you acknowledge which are the areas that need to be prioritized, probably priority therapy areas or priority device areas. The second is to build and champion. You build enabling infrastructure, regulatory pathways that support domestic industry. PLI scheme, PRIP scheme, alignment with MDR 2017, harmonization of standards, giving a very predictable regulatory pathway are some of the steps in the right direction. Allowing 100% FDI in the sector is a very positive step. The activity in the private equity space in medical devices has been at an all-time high last 3 years. But at the same time, we see the champion or the consume part not being met effectively. You can't say that we are making in India for the world and not consuming in India. We still have public procurement. Despite having a very effective public procurement order, it is not implemented because it does not have teeth. Law without implementation is like a tiger that can't run. So that is something that the government needs to focus on. We need to put our money where our mouth is and first champion the cause of domestic manufacturers in public procurement. In addition, there is hyperactivity on the regulatory and governance side, which is great because there's a lot of interaction with the industry. But there are some, we take 2 steps back and a step forward and a step back. For example, the allowance of refurbished medical equipment, allowing the country to become a dumping ground, is a very, very regressive move.
Absolutely.
On one hand, you have PLI, especially in medical electronics segment, which I and Khurana ji are part of. And on the other hand, you allow India to become a dumping ground for low quality refurbished equipment. How do you expect domestic manufacturers to compete with that? There were no industry consultations. Similarly, PMP, phased manufacturing plan, which has been very successful in the auto and the mobile phone industry, because they created an ancillary ecosystem of vendors, was implemented in the radiology sector where there is no capacity or capability to build critical components. Now suddenly Indian manufacturers are at a disadvantage of 7.5%. So these kind of factors, they do set you back. I think government needs to have more intensive engagement with the industry champions. But overall, I feel extremely bullish about our vision to not only meet but exceed $50 billion, thanks to champions in every segment. We talk about diagnostics, surgical, devices, equipment. We have companies that have done extremely well. So a long-winded answer to your question.
No. Absolutely. I think you nailed it the right ABC way. I mean, these are certain steps that the government need to really treat very, very carefully. And ultimately, what's the vision? It's the vision to have a stronger domestic industry really grow for a world, really grow for a larger population. And if we have these roadblocks, we should be able to flag them. We've done it together. We've done it. In fact, SMT was also the part of the PLI scheme, the first PLI scheme. We are a part of it. Our factories, both of them are there. Let me come to Dr. Sanjeev right now. So Sanjeev ji, your view on the recent announcement on the R&D allocation that the government is doing through the PRIP scheme. It's a very ambitious scheme. It's something which all of us had goosebumps. Basically, if I read the entire scheme, and day before yesterday, in fact, me and Dr. Ravi Rathore were a part of the deliberations that the Department of Pharmaceuticals had. It gives us some kind of solace that there is now recognition towards quality. It gives us some kind of solace that yes, we will be able to get the right kind of as Gauravji right now mentioned, the right kind of traction, not only in the areas of funding, but also in the areas of recognition. So your views that how would this actually be a cudgel towards the $50 billion dream that we are looking towards?
Good morning all. Thank you Mr. Chibba for asking this, because this research factor is something which is very close to my heart, which I am discussing on everyday basis. See, getting the funds available cannot convert the research into commercial aspects. So when we have this huge funding, we first have to create that ecosystem, taking users with us to understand what they need. Because if we talk about research, what I have observed, either we are reinventing the wheel or we are trying to copy what is available globally. We are not trying to find the pain point and the solution. So nobody is working on that, because see, the problem is academia and researchers, they don't have any access to market. So it's industry basically who has to take that initiative to come forward, take the users, take the academia, standardization agency, and regulators all together. We have to chuck out we have to chuck out a foolproof plan of how to shortlist the products, then research, then the commercial development, because I have seen many a times that researchers come up with very good products, but when we want to convert it to commercial viability product, there are practical problems.
I'll just stop you here because this is a very important thing that you touched upon. Do you think that we do not have, and it's not from the industry side that I'm saying, from an academia side, the linkage that needs to come from there. Globally, we all witness, I mean, we all go to countries on a regular basis. We see the academia coming forward to be partners with the industry to create that quality research, to create that quality device, innovation. This is a miss here. And this is what they've tried to ingrain in this peer IP scheme. They've tried to loop in NIPERs. They've tried to come up with COEs, the Center of Excellences, with them. But how far do you think that this is going to be a viable option? Because right now the condition of institutions and the pace of industry is a mismatch.
See, the point is again, as Gaurav said, industry will only come forward towards novel projects, towards academia, when they know that they will get some market, they will get some preference. So at the end of the day, industry is here to earn and survive.
Exactly.
In the that cycle of survival, they keep fixed to selling or manufacturing run of the mill products. So day before yesterday, there was a conference in Bombay organized by Citra for MedTechs with the BIS and CDSU. So there, a gentleman who researched on advanced wound dressing, he said that we being researchers, we need a place where we are assured that if we are, because you cannot be very sure that research is going to give you results. So we need a free hand, like Bayrak held their hand when they started manufacturing their first wound dressing. They offered them 50 lakh rupees and they told them that go ahead. If we fail, we'll still learn. So that kind of translation system, like we need too many AMTZs, where we have the ecosystem of labs, where we have training center for skilled manforce, where we have incubators, where we have regulators sitting there, where we have standardization agency sitting there, and the industry. So this kind of approach is required. And
no, I completely agreed. In fact, the medical devices parks that have been announced by the government of late last year, there are 4 of them which are there. Unfortunately, they will also come to fructification by 26 or 27 or maybe late 28. And that $50 billion dream is like a wild goose chase right now. If we look at it, had it not been the industry which would have really gone ahead and established itself. So, as I was saying, Sunilji, lots of ambitions, $50 billion dream. We've heard how research, transitional research, we've heard how, the ABCs that Gaurav right now mentioned about needs to really translate pretty fast. But there's been, the entire bump where we think that technologies are enablers, but we're still not there in terms of technology, and that's the domestic spiel that everyone kinds of looks at. So how do you think that global collaborations can really look at India being the next $50 billion industry that we're looking forward to? And not even $50 billion. We heard day before yesterday the Honorable Secretary DOP talking about that by 2047, the Vision 2047 document that the government of India is building envisions a $250 billion industry, which presently the pharmaceutical industry is of. So how would you look at that unfurling, and your views on this entire AI, genomics, technology being a part of the entire leapfrog that India takes forward?
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting. It's a one question with many.
I know it's
subsets.
it is.
So let me address one by one. First of all, I believe that this 50 billion should be broken down in pieces. That's the first thing. Just by saying 50 billion, are we still trying to say that what is a local and how much is an imported there? I believe that today when we talk about 12 billion, we say nearly 3 billion is local and 9 is coming from outside. How are we changing that? Today, if it is 20-25% of number, I feel that we should look at 20-30, which means that 20 becomes local, 30 becomes still, because you can't control that. That inflow will still continue. But if that still stays 40 and you only do 10, then we have not done a right job. So that's one area. Second, you said on a technology. Technology is clearly enabler, and technology takes time to build. I mean, you build a technology, then you prove it, that whether it is really, a right technology to be taken for the patients. I still have a view that transfer of technology, as you said, global collaborations, those are a very right approach. I mean, look at the way G20 was very successful just now in 2 weeks back or just 1 week back. If we have that kind of relationships, I think government need to drive that there is a more technology partnership so that we are not reinventing the wheel. Same patient monitor or same X-ray machine or same products, you also do, which is anyways being done outside and which is very, very accurate. So I think we need to cut that. This is the one area that our funding also should be seen. It should be seen as an investment in R&D. And third point is that academia partnership, we have many meetings. In those meetings, it looks phenomenal. It looks very energetic and very, everybody thinks wonderful. But then there has to be ownership both sides, that we start displaying that I'm with IIT Kanpur or Delhi or ISB. So we have to display that. They need to also say that we have a one-to-one matching. So these are the areas we need to do that. Make in India, or maybe down the line sometime it may be known as a Make in Bharat. That was initially started on a 15th August 2013 by our Honorable Prime Minister. That was, you remember the first speech came from Lal Killa. And that time, that Red Fort speech was very powerful. And he said, come make in India. Come make in India multiple times. It looked more a slogan. But I want to really say from my experience of a little over 4 decades, that what I have seen in last 4 or 5 years, it's really phenomenal, very encouraging. Only thing is that many things are not yet practical. We have to bring those schemes to a practicality. And whether it's a PLI, whether it is the warehouse registrations, all of that needs to have a practical approach. Once we have that, I think we are all willing to do that. And if government is willing to drive it, it will definitely happen. Thank you.
No, I think very valid points. You hit the nail pretty hard, and this entire Make in India was something which drove us also. Every one of us drove every one of us, and we've seen that change over the last 4 to 5 years. COVID, unfortunately, when people say what is something like a roadblock, I would say the opposite. It became an enabler for us, and that is where we saw a lot of companies also proving their success in this entire COVID pandemic era. Coming to you, Kamal, you have a very great story in terms of being one of those unique, novel technology providers here in India, which are in niche areas. But yet, when you look at your own niche area, how would that actually translate into also converting that $50 billion dream that India looks forward to? And now not the $50 billion with the 2047 vision, it's going to be a $250 billion dream. The moment we touch 2030 and MDGs and SDGs are actually tick boxed as an Indian prerogative, it goes forward. So your story and your belief on how this is going to really unfold.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Rajiv ji, and thank you, MedGate, for this opportunity. Yeah, definitely. Being into the cancer diagnostics, the cancer is one of the disease is rapidly. It's actually spreading. I don't say spreading, but again, it's like rapidly growing the cancer diseases in the world. At the same time, being a high population in India, the cancer is like one of the major diseases that actually suffering by many people for many causes. But when it comes to $50 billion, the India is already by 2022, their imports and the imports mainly and the local manufacturing already $134 billion already reached. 2027, they are at the target of imports and everything going to be $168 billion. But when we say like local manufacturing in India, $50 billion, it's quite easy if every innovator and every PhD scholar, if they think on that, like, okay, yes, I have a product and it has to go to the manufacturing. And as Sanjeev ji said, like the research people, they are just doing the research, but it is not like coming out of the product. If India and if somebody is doing the research and they have a PhD, and unless you bring a product, or if you bring a product, you have additional incentives, then definitely like every university have at least multiple products coming out in every month. That is one thing. And when it comes to the cancer diagnostics, the $50 billion kind of easy, because the whole market for cancer diagnostic and therapy is close to 40-45 billion dollars, directly, indirectly. But again, when it comes to cancer pathology or cancer diagnostics, the NGS, next gen sequence, is taking like a way forward of identifying cancers at the early stage of diagnosis. So where there we are playing a major role in molecular pathology, and I think that's kind of easy. But the challenges are like quality product and exports. So a lot of people, in fact, like if you see the government tenders, they call as like USFDA. When you have a product, when you're calling a make in India, the USFDA has to be kind of like a wave off. So that is one thing like where you can bring up the $50 billion of dream of India.
No, I completely agreed. If we have standards, if we have qualities, I think all other, sort of licensing just becomes another story. It should not be a hindrance in terms of projections. But I'll do a quick rapid fire kind of a round right now, where your views on taking this dream forward, at least 2 points that we would be able to pen down and as maybe certain solutions give to the government would be to really achieve this $50 billion vision that the government has.
So, one recommendation that I have, and which we've learned the hard way, is that a lot of Indian institutes of eminence are engaging with science, not so much technology. And there's a fundamental difference there. Everybody wants to do fundamental research, but I think what India needs is translational research and um, um import substitution research also. I think we need to be shameless. I think Sunil Khurana ji had raised this point. We need to be shameless about bringing technologies where we have very high import dependence and making them in India. But a lot of our engineering institutions consider it below par to work on translational projects. That is one. Second is, I think a lot of money is given to institutions of eminence. There are ICMRs at IITs. Then there is now NIPERs are being empowered as MedTech innovation hubs. But what is missing is that all of this research is not leading to any productization. It's leading to patents, it's leading to PhDs, but not products. I think the government needs to incentivize products coming out of these universities. Those are my two recommendations.
No, absolutely bang on. I mean, this is something which will really take it to a very, very next level. Sanjeev ji, you also mentioned a similar kind of a point in this sense. Your two, cents on research on real time. I mean, I'll coin it like the AI, the new AI, which is academia industry, rather than we just relying on the technology part of it. Your 2 cents on it.
My suggestion will be, I would request IMED to pitch in. Yes, because the industry, the biggest industry association, what we shall do, first we shall come up with the segments like medical electronics, medical equipment, then medical textiles. There are 10 to 12 segments. Shall invite at least 2 experts from each segment. Invite GEM, because they are the biggest enabler at this time for public procurement for the products. Then standardization body BIS, so that we can parallelly create the standards which don't pose a hindrance to the new research. And the regulators who can understand that regulations shall also be dynamic. As Rajiv Nath sir is suggesting and Anil Johri sir is suggesting, rather than regulating through government, it's if you see, we have a perfect example of success, Hallmark. Hallmark is nothing but an industry body standard. Automobile, they have upgraded themselves. So it is industry who has to come forward. Rather than upgrading infrastructure, we need to upgrade mindsets about quality, about research. So I think we shall come up with a concrete plan, take help of DOP in this cross ministry things, because DOP is helping us a lot. So this is my suggestion, that let's prioritize things. Let's finalize a list of equipment and items to be researched. Two lists. One is like where we want to decrease the import dependency. Maybe we have to copy the technology also. And the second thing, what is missing in India, what is needed to India, that research.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Sunil ji, transition required, not only in research, not only in academia, not only within the government peripherals and policy. How would that be? Your 2 cents on this. Transition has become the big word today.
So to do any transition, first of all, understand that all the local companies who are trying to build something, they need to be protected. They need to be given some hand holding. Now, look at the way pharma and auto industry was protected, right? Policies came in. Today, if I'm importing components at a higher duty, an actual machine is being imported, finished machine comes at a much lower duty, can you ever be competitive? You will never be competitive. So that's a one area we need to look at, that probably all the sub-assemblies and components which are being used for the local manufacturing are at a very, very subsidized custom or nil custom. And second, your entry barrier has to be raised. I mean, today you want to get a Mercedes or Audis or any other car, you know what kind of GST, what kind of customs are there if you want to bring it. That's how local industry has been protected. Something of that nature need to be done. Second is, I think BIS or CDSCO group is very understaffed. That's what I can only see, because it takes several months. Today I have more than 100 SKUs. It is one line item I can manage. But something submitted 6 months back, now I'm getting a query of that. Sometime I submit something new and after 1 month also I get a query. But unless there is a defined time that in a week's time, 10 days time, query will come and quickly you respond, you are actually surrendering against the import. Import, you have a product, you don't need to get into that cycle, and that is, killing. So this is where I come.
No, bang on. I think you've really hit it well. Kamal, your 2 cents, how the game changer will now start.
Yeah. Whatever imports are happening right now, in a high value of imports that is happening, I think the government should concentrate on this particular imports and take the list down and give the notification to all the industries as well as to the nation, stating that like what we can do in this thing and why there is an import, what standards they are maintaining. If that is being given clearly, if this can be made in India and the procurement can be done only in India. So that one thing, like the list need to be nailed down by the government and spread out. The way the country is currently focusing on electric vehicles and semiconductors. Similar way, if the list comes out from the government on medical devices, that would definitely impact next 5 years of time. That's one thing. A second thing is like incubation centers. The incubation centers, most of states they have incubation centers, but how actively they are working, how actively they are engaging with the industries. So that is something like missing. At least like I'm from Telangana, and the Telangana government and a lot of cohorts from T-Hub, they are engaging very frequently with the industries, where we could see a lot of reach to the end users as well as the customers and the government. So where we can actually directly discuss with the government, and we can say the problems or like challenges that we have, or the success what we have, we are sharing with them. So that way the Telangana currently we are able to make so many things, and that encouragement is coming. So if it can made across India same kind of a niche, then probably it is easy to go.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, everyone. I think we're just at the fag end of the entire discussion here. Great points from each one of you. I think those two cents of nuggets that everyone had actually had would really provide a real wheel from not being reinventing, but trying to do it in a very different way so that we tick box not only the $50 billion industry with affordability, accessibility, and availability, but also where we have a tripartite agreement on how industry works, the policymakers should actually enable, and how there should be an academia industry linkage to take this vision forward. So before we end, we have a video by Professor Sudhir Srivastava sir. We'll ask the organizers to play it once more. Sorry, to play it now.
Good morning. Firstly, my sincere apology for not being there physically. Unfortunately, the schedules just were not desirable approach for most of the patients if they can. So the accessibility, affordability, and quality, they become absolutely a must whenever we are looking at how we can develop patient-centric devices that will be not only great for our country in India, but also have a journey. We have developed a robotic system that is literally almost less than half to one-third the cost of existing one. And this will allow a greater penetration for the patients. So patients can benefit from these high-end technologies that normally will not be available to them. And also we must look at decentralizing excellence, as I use this phrase, whereby we must be able to use the technology, and especially today utilizing the high-speed connectivity, the 5G, and in future upcoming 6G. So we can actually take the advantage of these techniques and technologies wherever required. So when we are developing and designing some of these devices, we can keep in mind that right from the beginning we incorporate these abilities. Secondly, we should look at what exists out there and also look at the global scene as to why many of the countries are not getting these sophisticated devices. So we should address those as a priority. Now, addressing what are the barriers within India, I think we still are way behind in terms of development of medical devices. There is lack of investment, lack of incentive. There is heavy duty on various components that are not manufactured in India, and we have to import from outside. So I think emphasis on, first of all, creating an indigenous development and manufacturing of some of the sophisticated electronic components that come from outside, that truly will make us independent, reduce our costs, and also be away from some of these global impacts that we have seen recently. So I think the emphasis should be there. Secondly, the duty even on the components that are imported should be reduced, especially the ones that we are not manufacturing in the country. And finally, I think the government should give priority to Make in India products, because that will incentivize the scientists and also the people who want to get involved with the startups really have incentive. And lastly, I would say the refurbished equipment that comes to India at lower prices should not be allowed, because as many countries do not allow that. And as long as these devices are manufactured or similar devices are manufactured in the country, the government should very seriously look at disallowing that. And this way we can actually promote products as long as they meet the standard within the country. So again, thank you very much. Goodbye.